Arcade Heroes.
Hey everyone, it's Adam with ArcadeHeroes.com, and for today's Arcadia Obscura, I'm here with a game that it shouldn't be obscure because the game that it's a sequel to is pretty well known in retro gaming circles, if you're familiar with games from the 80s. And this is Dragon Saber, and the game it's a sequel to is Dragon Spirit, as it says here, after story of Dragon Spirit. And so Dragon Spirit, very well known. In fact, growing up, I encountered it not at the arcade, but at my friend's house when I think he rented it for his NES. And so it actually has a very different story from the first one. So this one, it says, the human beings have repeated their foolish history because of their own desires, and everything around then, it's probably supposed to say them, has been to, or has turned into, post-apocalyptic landscape. Like in Dragon Spirit, it's a story about a prince or a soldier saving a princess. But continuing the story, come to nothing. Advanced alchemy has caused environmental disruption. Also guessing that might be magic or something. And they just translated it as alchemy. The world has been filled with evil creatures, and the human beings have threatened with extinction. So it's pacing on telling the story here is a little slow. Meanwhile, the sun god, Arlia, appeared. I don't think it was Arlia that appeared in Dragon Spirit either. And the name of the characters was also different characters. From the sky to human and told. Kind of surprised this hasn't been picked up by a lot of memes. The brave young man, Hui and Syria, I grant to you this sacred saber. I think I missed that part, sorry. Show your good spirit. And of course, when I start the game here in a moment, then it'll get zapped by lightning and turn into dragons. And so, yeah, Dragon Saber is actually a very cool game. And as you'll see, what kind of sets it apart from Dragon Spirit and a lot of other shoot-'em-up games as I play. But it's pretty rare to come across. As far as I've heard, and this could be totally wrong, I've heard only 1,000 of these were made, and they were never released in a dedicated cabinet. When Dragon Spirit was released, Atari Games produced that in a dedicated cabinet, so gave it its own artwork and everything, and did their promotional push behind it. But when this came out in 1990, Atari Games had nothing to do with it, and so Namco just made a bunch of kits, so the circuit board, this is Namco System 2, and the artwork that would go on the marquee here, the bezel, the control panel, and all that, and just sold that kit to convert old other cabinets into. And so this was a Data East cabinet, I believe. I'm not sure exactly which game might have inhabited this one prior, but yeah, picked this up a few years ago, and it's really one of my favorite games. I really do enjoy this game. It's tough as nails. It's pre-Bullet Hell era, but it's still very tough, but it's still a lot of fun. I love the music in it, especially Dragon Spirit had some great music. In fact, I remember when I first encountered Dragon Spirit as a kid, I remember this song from, I think, the first level getting stuck in my head when I went home later that day, and really enjoyed that song. But this also has great music in it. And another thing that sets this apart is that this allows you to play two people at the same time, which Dragon Spirit, you just have to take turns. This also has a bunch of scaling effects, which of course was a big thing back in the late 80s, early 90s, before 3D was a thing, and Namco had other games where they used rotating sprites and scaling sprites. I have Assault, where they did a lot of what was later known as Mode 7 sprite rotation. But yeah, this is just a great game, so let me get into it and see how I do, see how far I get. I've not actually ever beat this game, and so I need to practice at it a lot more. But again, enjoy Dragon Saber, released back in December 1990. So let's get to it. Alright, it's good to go. Let's get struck by lightning. Woo!
thing that I always have to remind myself with games like this is you don't have to keep tapping the button. You can just hold it down, and it has a pretty fine auto-fire, rapid-fire functionality built into the game, which is nice. But one thing that's cool about this, I should pay more attention to the game, I guess, than talking, but one thing that's cool about this is it's basically like Xevious, but with a fantasy instead of a sci-fi theme, but it's just a lot more detailed in depth, I guess you can say, than Xevious was. Of course, they did come out with other Xevious titles like Xevious 3DG. That was a few years after this. I got my 3 heads. I don't know, I always played Xevious here and there, but never got like super into it. I like this better. Gotta get the gem. So if you don't fire, then that's where it charges up your shot, like this, which will be useful for the boss battle here in a second. Always a good strategy on that one to first blast the little turret things, whatever they are. Because this eyeball doesn't really do much other than to just kind of walk around or float around. I love the art design of this one, though. The fantasy aesthetic is pretty cool, but it has like an industrial fantasy aesthetic to it. And there's a level, I think it's stage 3, maybe it's 4, where it was obviously inspired by Aliens. So it has a lot of those xenomorphic kind of designs. This is where, yeah. So this is one of the different dragon styles. So it changes your weapon slightly, but also it changes the bombs. Oh crap. This part I never do terribly good at. The wall of fire. Past it. Here's what the charge looks like. Back to maximum power. Ow! Those enemies do let you know that they're about to shoot as their mouths light up. So I should have been smarter about that. There we go. So you don't get multiple heads with, I think, all the other dragon styles. It's only the darker blue one that you do. Here's where we get a little bit of slowdown because it starts throwing too much at you. I'll avoid that. That would have downgraded me back to the blue dragon, and I think I want to stay as the light blue for my boss battle in a whirlpool of fire or lava. There we go. Nice hit on him. Charged weapon. There we go. Made short work of him. So this was before the bullet Hell era. Oh, and here's the stage. Okay, so it was stage 3 where you'll see some designs where it's like obviously the artist liked the art design that came from Aliens. You gotta be careful about the moving walls because you can run into those. Here's the green dragon style. So gotta use my bombs on these guys. Oh crap. Haven't played this game in a little while, kind of forgot that. Oh, and there's the eggs that have like xenomorphs, like facehuggers in them. There's some of those scaling effects I mentioned that System 2 is capable of. Yeah, this stage has a lot more stuff to bomb on it than the other stages. So keep that in mind, blow those guys up. Get my green dragon back. 100% sure where my hitbox is on the dragon. If it's the entire dragon or if it's slightly off. I think those tentacle monsters are pre-rendered sprites, because if you look at them closely enough, they do seem slightly different, like they are rendered or something. Style to them than the rest of the other monsters. Well, darn, I was doing so well up until I got to stage 3, and then I got my butt kicked. But yeah, this is Dragon Saber. Okay, I admit, this is my second run through today. My first one wasn't so good, didn't want to show that one. As far as I've heard, I don't know how accurate this is. Namco only produced 1,000 of these kits and sold them out there, and of course, how many of those were in Japan versus the States, I'm not sure, but it's a cool game. It's one of my favorite shoot-'em-ups, especially in the vein of Xevious style games. It's hard to come across, and when Namco does a re-release of different game compilations, like with the Pac-Man Pixel Bash or Pac-Man's Arcade Party, they would only include Dragon Spirit on it and not Dragon Saber. But I do believe this was released on the Wii Virtual Console, and that's the last time it got any major love out there, so if you still have one of those and still buy stuff off the Wii shop, I'm not sure. I don't think you can anymore. But then yeah, maybe you've played it there. But yeah, thanks for watching this episode of Arcadia Obscura with Dragon Saber. Let me know what else you might like to see, as I do have some other rarities here and there. Or maybe things that maybe they're not rare, but they're perhaps just a little obscure. And so, yeah, we'll catch you on the next video.